I'm
Where?
from the UK, but I've lived here for 11 years now.
Oh, all right. All right. Sounds like you met somebody.
Well, it's a long story. I met a French guy, so
You met
he's,
a you met a French guy. And what
yeah, and I
happened?
ended up in Spain.
11 years you've been there.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. So do you live alone? You still with the French guy? What do
No,
you
I live alone, and well, with my daughter, and I have a friend here right now taking care of her in case she wakes up.
How old is your daughter?
3.5.
Oh, wow. Doing the Ascension with a 3.5-year-old. Holy crap.
Yeah, she's here to
So
help.
so you're from UK, you live in Spain the last 11 years, you have a 3.5-year-old daughter that lives with you. And you're a special place. I know that's a very powerful place, Ibiza. I know a couple of people that live there, but don't ask me who they are. Um, and where did you come from before that? Arcturus?
Somewhere like that, yeah.
Somewhere like I get the feeling you're very galactic. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Um, so have you always been this weird, or did you wake up this way when you were born?
Um, I woke up probably about actually this island re-woke me up about 10 years ago.
So you went to the island, you weren't woke yet, and you go to the island. Okay. Was it like a lot of people's? Did you have some trauma or relationships ending or anything like that happening that kind of triggered it?
Well, so what started, I used to work in banking in London. I had like really normal life, normal job, and I knew I wanted to leave. I knew I wasn't made for this. I always felt like a square peg. And then I moved to this island and I started doing retreats. I set up retreats, fitness, yoga, detox. And then, I was just doing run of the mill stuff. And then one night I was in bed sleeping and this voice woke me up and it said, "It's your purpose to awaken people's sacral chakra." And at that time, I had no idea what that was. But it was so profound. I just knew I had to answer that call within.
And that's how it started. A little
That's
voice.
yeah,
So you were doing yoga and you were health conscious, it
yeah,
sounds like. And so then you got this message that you're going to awaken people's sacral chakra. Where did that take you? Did you I mean, I know that happens to a lot of people. They get a message and they're like, "Okay, what do I do?" And then
yeah. I mean, that took me into what's a chakra, all of this. And then a really funny thing happened. I was in my late 30s at the time. I didn't have any kids and I had a miscarriage. And at that time I thought, wow, that's maybe my last chance, who knows. So because I live on such a beautiful island, there's many healers here, I went to see a womb healer, um, and I thought I was just getting a healing, on my womb to deal with the grief. And what happened was this huge awakening and remembering, and essentially through my womb space over the last 10, I don't know how many years it is now, I've integrated multiple lifetimes, gifts, wisdom, um, through this space, and I'm able to share that with the
wow,
world now.
that's very cool. Everybody has their specificities, right? I mean, it seems like everybody has certain pieces they're bringing. So, did you download information or code on like sacred sexuality, Helioscamos, that type of thing?
Exactly. Yeah, that sort of thing. Um, Light frequencies, very powerful light frequencies that we can use, that are available for us to use in order to heal, to remove. to upgrade our frequency. Our frequency has become so distorted in this matrix that, you know, it's quite heavy work for us that want to do the work. It's heavy work, but actually we can use light frequencies that just take care of that for us.
So when you like, I guess, and I can tell you speak from experience because if you're working on yourself, you know what it's like. But it seems like that's a big part of this transition we call ascension is the shadow work, zero pointing, polarities, duality. So are you saying that as a kind of a maintenance or an offense, I guess, that you, instead of waiting for the shadows to come, that you do this light frequency work and it kind of does the work for you and you don't really go through it the same way, or do you still go through it the same way?
You still feel it. Yeah, there's no, for me, you know, like this, there's going to be I'm on a bear hunt. You got to go through it, right? Rather than going around it or over it. So for sure, yes, but there is, it takes the edge off it for sure. Like it takes the edge off it.
Yeah. And how do you, or maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. So how did you start to share that with people? Well,
Yeah, how did I start to share it with people? Well, it took a lot of work to allow it to come through me, because I was getting in my own way in terms of trying to figure out what to call it, how to share it, what to do. And in the end, yeah, that took a lot of getting rid of persecution wounds, of silencing, cutting out the tongue, all of that. And then I just said, I'm just going to open my mouth and see what comes out. And then I started sharing it in circle, first of all. So I would share it with a group of women. And now I've worked with men, and I've worked with one-on-one and all sorts.
yeah. Yeah, I think what you're talking about, a lot of people have gone through, and I think it's important to talk about these things because there's a lot of people going through what a lot of people have already gone through, you know? And I think part of that is you have this wake up experience, you have a voice. Then you're given these instructions. You're not really told how to do it. You start downloading all this information, and then at some level, like you're saying, basically, that you've got to put it out there somehow. So you share it in a circle. Others might put up a post. A lot of people talk about when that is happening or when that happened to them, that they really, like you were talking about, get in their own way. Like they really have like a tug of war with their higher self. They don't want to do it. Um, you know what I mean? It
Yeah,
sounds like you went through that, and I think people go through that. Um, but yeah, it sounds like you went through that.
yeah, yeah, I did go through that. And when I realized that it wasn't me, like me, the human me, that was such a relief, because it was like, wow, it's not me. I'm just like the channel. And
Yeah.
the more I just hand it over, the more I'm amazed by what comes out of my mouth. You know, I listen back and go, wow.
Yes, that's very true. That's very true. And I like how you said that it wasn't you. Like that's the part that gets in the way. It's the intellect overtaking the intelligence rather than the intellect being smart enough to say, hey, let the intelligence run the show, which I think is where a lot of us are getting at. You mentioned that our frequencies became very distorted. And I think, this community, these types of communities, they pretty much, that's pretty much out there now. But how do you feel about your individual frequency, those that you know, and the world in general over these past few months? There seems to have been a lot of initiations, bloodletting. No, but no, there seems to have been a lot of growth through a lot of what you said about not going over, under, or around, but through, right?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's incredible. Like I'm sure everyone is feeling right now, these frequencies that are coming in, what I've been feeling is a certain rising of the divine feminine, the holy, Christ is Sophia, Shekinah, whatever you want to call that divine mother, Isis power, and it's palatable. You can feel it viscerally, and you're able to touch it. And I think a lot of us have been scared because we have been holding the flame of these lights through very dark periods. And there's been times in those dark periods where we think it's going to come now, it's going to come now, and it doesn't. And there's more death, there's more bloodletting, there's more cleansing energy, and just one making it to pass that flame. And so I think probably a few months back, me and people in my community were feeling like, is this it? It feels like it's it, but what if it's not? What happens if we get full again? But I think it's becoming like we can start resting in it now, is what I'm feeling like, actually, because it's been quite consistent. We can start resting in it, and then obviously, as you said, we're signaling the polarity, and we're just looking at its polarity and going, what are you doing?
Yeah, I was telling Morgan that last night, because let's see, in Australia they had really strict COVID restrictions, and then they loosen those up, and they have this storm of the centuries or of millennium, and basically the same thing's happening. People are being restricted in their movements. There's food supplies cut off. The government's not out helping people, which is really weird. They're not doing anything. So we were talking about that and a couple other things that they put out propaganda-wise, and I'm just like, God, this is weird. Like the distortion is just getting weirder and weirder because she's over there. So obviously, I'm a little bit concerned about it, and I said, but at the same time, for every degree that the distortion is getting more distorted, we're growing or more, and that's what's weird, because it's almost like we're in these bubbles and we're living these lives impervious to anything outside of us as the days go on, and it's a paradox, and it's a mind twister. I don't know how this is going to go.
Yeah, and I think people, want to know how it's going to go, and there's divine order there.
Yeah.
And like speaking to some of my friends, family that are in that old paradox, it's like talking a different language. It's like passing boats, and there's also a lot of fear as well in terms of are these, whatever, is this other paradox going to be the new reality? How does that work? But I think the more that we can work on our own shadows of that, instead of projecting it, where are we terrorizing where ourselves and others and things? We're owning that shadow instead of continuing to project it.
Well, it makes no sense in the linear world that individual human beings could do what you're talking about, what people in these communities have been doing, self-work, self-love, whatever you want to call it, and that it changes everything externally. But that's what's actually happening. I love what you said to your friends, like how y'all were feeling in your community, which was like, is this it? Is this it? Because I can relate to that, and I think it would have been before October. And then again, I start feeling it now here in March. Like October, November, December, they were like going through a dryer, a cosmic dryer, and getting spun around. January hit, it wasn't much better. February was crazy and short. And then all of a sudden we're standing almost like we came out of a storm and just still dripping wet, and the sun's coming up, and you're thinking, when's the shoe going to drop? Is this going to stay like this? And it feels like it is.
Yeah, it does feel like it's settling, doesn't it? I also, what I feel, I don't know if you resonate with this, is some of us are really processing for the collective as well. And that's often what is making us go through it as well, is that actually we're doing a great service by processing
Yeah.
all of this.
Yeah, I think that's. I was talking to my son last night, and Morgan has this saying: "Being an empath was a weakness, and then it becomes a strength." And I think that's what's happening. I think the feminine are leading the way with this type of anchoring, processing through the individual soul for the collective, because I think that superpower she's talking about is knowing what's not yours and still doing the work where you're not affected by emotion so much, and you're not charged, you're just doing the work. But that's exactly, because I mean, we've met women on this show that were doing this 15, 20 years ago, in silence in their bedroom, being estranged from their family. Everyone thought they were crazy, getting divorces, and just all these incredible stories, and it's all coming to fruition now. And it's just strange because the distortion is matching the growth of the individual. But it's almost like anything 3D, anything at all. If we're looking at it one iota, we're going to experience it.
Yeah. It's like, and I think that is what you said, a great gift of the feminine. If we go back to ancient times, there was this sacred sexuality, sacred prostitution
Yes.
gift of being able, to take the war out of men, being able to process. And in this womb field, well, the womb field has this magical energy to transform an egg into a fetus, into a baby, without us doing anything. There's a powerful transmutational energy field there. Just like if we look at the cosmic womb, the black hole, the cosmic womb, the black hole is literally swallowing up stars, swallowing up information and rebirthing them. And
Right.
this, as above, so below, we are a holograph of that cosmic womb. And so we're able to do that. But we've been doing it a lot unconsciously, especially medicine women, whatever we like to call ourselves. We've been doing this a lot unconsciously and sometimes taking that on. So, like you said, doing that sacred practice, that sacred service without taking it on oneself
Yeah.
is key.
And I think that was hard on a lot of women, like these last few years, even though they came in and started these communities, and they're still 80%. I mean, the men are coming, but the women are solid. And I think what's happening, or what I'm picking up on, Morgan put up two posts in the last 2 or 3 days talking about what you're talking about, this feminine power rising. And it's not like it's like a confidence, it's like a confidence, and a confidence in safety, in their safety, and a confidence in their power. And it's happening. And I think the biggest thing that you said is that so many of us have been doing this. I'm talking about, the women from your perspective. So many of us have been doing this for so long. And I think that's very true, especially on an unconscious level. And even people that aren't in these communities, I think there's feminine power all over the world anchoring, whether they're consciously doing it for the collective or not. And in the process of doing that, they are in command of their empathic abilities. And that's a personal transformation that's a very high frequency, that I think that's the balancing act, or the balancing energy that's being introduced to the earth through them.
Yeah. And this, this rising, feminine rising, that's right, rising in men as well, is balancing this almost psychopathic culture that we have in 3D right now, which is devoid of the divine feminine, that part of us that knows all, feels all, and knows that we are one. That is the part that connects us, the unmanifest potential. And when that's not there, it's like we have empty bodies not connected to source, organizing and structuring very well, but they're missing the sacred why, and they're missing the compassion and kindness for all. They're missing the what, the all.
That's right.
In
There's
one.
no soul. There's no soul in it. There's no soul in it. It's injected. It's injected with the. Well, anyway, but we're getting past that.
Yeah.
And and it's interesting what you said. I don't know if people caught that. If you look at the etymology of prostitute and priestess, it's one and the same thing. And many early references to that you were talking about involving those women and the stature they had. And I don't mean stature by, oh, wow, look at them. I mean stature in terms of power, in terms of personal power and what they represented. That's coming back now. And I think a big part of it is going to be the understanding of the science of what we might call sacred sexuality, that has nothing to do with what we might think sex is. This is about our natural frequency that is the energy of that womb that you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, it's the same with whore. Whore, when you look at
Yes.
the word is womb.
Yeah, that's right.
As well. So it's exactly the same. And yeah, holy harlots. That's what they were. This was all taken out. It was even in the ancient Jewish religions of obviously Babylonian, Egyptian, Sumerian. And it's so funny if we look at it from our perspective, because sexual energy is our life force. It's the thing that brings us into life. So isn't it funny that that's the thing that's been damnationed and shamed? It's no mistake, because
Right.
it cuts us off from our power on a very real basis. So then we're not able to connect to that infinite power within. That's why it's been damned.
It was a perfect design. We all did it. Who better to fool you than yourself? So I'm in general, and I think this is a subject that people are going to be talking about more and more. Morgan's downloaded this Harioscama's Sacred Sexuality for like 20 years, and you see more and more women talking about it. How do you feel that the coding will be shared? How do you think that will go? Because I know that energy, that coding would be the type of coding that would grow very rapidly and be very powerful. How do you see that being disseminated into the population, into the
Yeah.
insanity, right?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because if we look at the general population, the one thing that they really want more than anything is a relationship, is the other,
Mm-hmm.
So on some level they're calling for it. That's probably the bigger, we look at it from a business marketing perspective. That's one of the biggest things that people want, and people that they tap into, don't they, in terms of marketing and things. So on some level they are seeking to enter in to a sacred union.
Yeah.
And I guess what's happening is they're looking more and more for that. They're waking up more and more, and they're going to put two and two together. So sharing these codes, sharing this connection, and sharing this ability, and that one can do it on them by themselves as well.
Right.
I think that's really the gift, and clearing up all the projections we have on feminine, all the projections we have on masculine. There's a lot of rejection of masculine, rejection of sexuality from masculine, because there's been a lot of trauma. So clearing all that up is going to enable that to really come online.
Yeah. And I think too that there's like just being in the presence of that frequency, whether it be an individual or a couple, you know what I mean? I think that does something, like a tuning fork. Somehow as we get into a more telepathic experience, more of the coding comes in without words. Basically, we're more sensitive. But yeah, it's a really interesting to think about what you're talking about, because this is the physical, you know, the physical aspect of the feminine anchoring and embodying into all of us, into the earth. I mean, but it's good to see, because there's a lot of you out there, and more stepping up, and the more that step up, I think people are exposed to that frequency, and it's just going to grow by
Yeah,
osmosis.
they just kind of feel, they feel the frequency, they feel the purity of the frequency, and they want it for themselves, because
Yeah.
it's kind of what they've been searching for but not really knowing. Like some of people I've worked with are in their 60s, and that they've been spiritual mentors and practices, you know, all of their lives, and they've done so much work, and they feel this, and they're like, what is that? That is the missing piece.
Yeah. Yeah, that feeling, if you got to throw up because the energy is so strong. What is going on here? But more and more people are. It's happening to more and more people, I think. But you mentioned something else too, because I think it was in October. I started seeing some men. Like there was just this whole sequence of men that just came on for different circumstances, and it was almost like a new masculine aspect was kind of rising. And then we got hit with October, November, December, and kind of came out of that. But I think it was late in January, it started happening again. And people were writing stuff about masculine and feminine, a lot about feminine, and still are, and rightfully so. But it felt like that there was some type of new equilibrium reached in the masculine and feminine energy. And you said something a while ago, and I'm going to try to recapture the words, but you were talking about the whole evolution of it. And you said that there was a lot of masculine or anger towards masculine, or, you know, a lot of things, mistrust, whatever. But it was like, whatever you said was like they were coming out, you were coming out, y'all were coming out. It's safe, the confidence is there, and it's happening. You know, it's happening. It's just like what you started the show with, and what you were telling about in your personal story, um, which, you know, so many of you are doing, and it's the proof is there.
Yeah, I do feel this, what you said, this sacred masculine energy coming in. It is so funny, right? Because I've been focused on divine feminine for, you know, a few years. That's been my thing, rising the feminine. That's what's going to balance the masculine. Yeah, all focused on that. And during my meditation time and my work, I've been having some interactions with some avatars of sacred masculine, so like Yeshua, Jesus, and these interactions have really shocked me, because the amount of love and safety that he has expressed towards me was overwhelming. And in him expressing that to me, I realized how much I was like, oh, not, no, you know, like almost rejecting it. And I've been working with this now to allow him closer to me. And he's been sharing with me how much the masculine has been suffering as well. So I've been in the last, since January, actually, which is what you just said, working more to call in the sacred masculine. And what has happened has been amazing, because about 3 weeks ago, one of the women in my circles said, hey, I know this man and he shares this Kundalini activation. Do you want to work with him? And I said, yeah, I'll do this, you know, meditation with him. And essentially, other avatars, Babaji has come in to share this kind of cosmic lingam, this divine masculine, sacred masculine rising that wants to provide now for the feminine. So exactly what you were saying, it's been quite surprising to me. and amazing. And that's, yeah, I definitely feel that there.
Yeah. Yeah. Something's, and obviously I'm in a relationship, and our relationship, we honor the higher guidance. And so that's how it was set up. That's how we've all been set up. And I guess what I'm saying is you can, I can look at the last 7 years in my relationship, and we've always seemed to follow the collective energy, and I'm sure that's can be seen in a lot of ways around the world in individuals and couples, but it so that's one basis, but the rest of it's what you see, right? And it just feels different. It feels like, they've talked about for a long time, she's here, but no, she's here. That energy is here, and it's not like taking masculine steps, or let's just say patriarchal steps where it's loud and making a big propaganda. It's just one step at a time, and each step there's more of them, and it's just kind of creeping along. And I saw a comment earlier in regard to Australia, which is a perfect example. One of our sisters put it up. Sorry, whoever it was, but thank you. And it was talking about, as Morgan was telling me last night, there were people, because the government wasn't coming out and helping the people, there were people that were coming from at least 8 hours away where she was at to go help these people that they don't even know, bringing them food. Now, that is, to me, that's the mother energy right
Yeah.
there. It don't matter what. It don't matter who did what to who. We've got family out there. We're going to go take care of them. There's somebody out there, right? And that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And did you see that as well in Poland because of what's happening in Ukraine? In Poland, um, a lot of refugees have gone there, and normally refugees, they'd have to set up refugee camps, but I can't remember the number now. I'm going to check. It's either 150,000 or 500,000 people that have been displaced from Ukraine. They've not got into a refugee camp in Poland. They've gone into people's homes, family
Wow.
homes. And I have a few Polish friends, like nearly every family near the border has another family with them. They're just in the home. So exactly, it's
That
like
is
tingly.
wild. That's wild. I mean, that's and there's more proof of it. And if you look at the marches, I know that because in Canada it was a truckers thing, and but if you saw the footage down there was a lot of women. There was a lot of women at the marches in Australia last year, you know, and early this year. So, yeah, it's weird because you don't see it in the paper. You don't see it being talked about, at length. A lot of the platforms are talking about the story, basically, the
Oh yeah.
story that's occurred, as opposed to what you're talking about and what's actually happening out there. Because I get a lot of comments and a lot of messages, and probably the most common one is something along the lines of, basically, I thought I was crazy, and then I found out there was a bunch of people like me, right? That's a funny way to say it, but they would say, "Hey, you're my lifeline." This because the people that come on your show, not me, the people that come on your show are like my lifeline. Thank you, Todd. Thank you, Morgan. I mean, over and over and over. So I think it's a lot of it has to do with awareness. And I don't know how you feel about this, but as time has gone on, especially toward the end of last year and now this year, it's almost like when you become aware of something, the coding occurs, the integration occurs. I know it's not that fast, but there's some things that seem to come in and you just understand right away, and your whole program gets changed.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel exactly the same. And I feel like the veils are really being lifted now. And I think it's this divine feminine that's rising. Like we cannot almost not feel that empathy. And, even people on the other side, let's say, are just opening up their doors, literally, or like you said, driving across. So this open motherly love, this compassion is just like arising inside of them, even perhaps without them realizing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, I mean, to think about, we often think about, oh, what's going to happen? Secret space, underground bases, da da da, whatever, Nibiru, you know. Uh, but we don't. I don't think we have spent enough time talking about the other side of it. I intend to teleport. I intend to have a choice if I want to live another 700 or 800 years, and I don't think I'm crazy. The energy that I've been exposed to in flashes and in dimension and in lucid dream and in communing with Morgan, it's a window to our true abilities, and so that's the way I'm going.
Well, I think that's
Others-
the way human evolution is going. You know, we've
yeah,
got the five senses, and now already, you know, clairsentience, clairvoyance, clairaudience, and then
yeah.
like these other things, regenerating the body, and all these, yeah, other abilities that we have that've been hidden from us.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they're not hidden any longer. It
No.
makes you, you know, with all the, because you got to look at everything as a potential program. That's the way I operate. And but if you look at the sacred texts, and it's really, I mean, you can look at the oral histories of indigenous and everything. They talk about these times. They talk about what they call the apocalypse, the great unveiling, revelations in the Bible, and all that stuff. And after it's over, there's 1,000 years or 2,000 years of peace. And I know everything's metaphoric, but I have a feeling it's going to be a hell of a party and a break and a vacation when it's all over, right?
Yeah, and this is the thing. We have such, our human brains have such small perspectives on timeline, you know, but when you look at that galactic year, which is 26,000 years, and like every 2006, you know, 2,600 years, it's going into a new age. Like, we have no clue. Like, we are so much more ancient and wise than we thought we were. And like you say, we're already waking up to that and reawakening, like you said, going into those different timelines and recalling memories and gifts that we can use now.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, in all seriousness, this feminine energy that's coming online, it's because I'm watching it and I've been watching it, and it's been, you know, it's like mystical. I mean, it's like, because it's such an, it is the womb. It's such an unknown quantity. You don't know. On one hand, it's a very steady thing, but before you know it, boom, something could happen at any time. But the one thing I do see, uh, and I've seen this and it's understandable, is the courage building up to doing it. I've talked to too many women on this show. You know, I spend a lot of time with a beautiful woman that's very much engaged, like we all are. So I get to see it through that, and you know, it's taken a lot of courage. But I do think something's been lifted that feels like it kind of coincided with the 22nd of February,
Mm.
and uh, and I think we're just kind of both going, okay, she's not going to do anything, and he's not going to do anything. You know, I'm talking the energy collectively, like you were saying that you, and I think this would be like a great exercise for someone to consider, even myself, to where you actually bring up these divine essences that are divine masculine and try to merge with them. And like you would maybe find out something about yourself. You know, I mean, it's this is how the energy's moving, though. I'm sorry, I got off on a tangent, but yeah, this is how we're learning. It's
Yeah.
through this individual, yeah, more individual internal experience.
Yeah. Because that way then it's embodied, you know, it's not just an idea. It's like it's absorbed into ourselves, and then we
Yeah,
just become it without realizing it. Like you said, it's like creeping along and suddenly like, wow, I feel completely like a different person now.
yeah. To me, it feels like plasma. Like when I think about it and I feel, as much as I can feel into it, it feels like plasma. It feels like, because you think on the earth, you have linear time, it's very dense, everything moves slow. But I guess when I feel like I'm aligning with it or I'm experiencing this feminine energy, and it could be just something I'm doing like this, it could be me by myself, could be me with Morgan, whatever. And I think about it, I don't know how to explain it. Where is it going? What's happening, kind of thing. It feels like plasma and you're moving slow, but everything's created fast. That's how
Yeah,
it feels to me. And
yeah,
even in lucid dream, that's how it feels. And I wonder if that's how it's going to be. Like, if you get in a car accident and things start to move really slow, like you ever have something happen and everything just slows down, like to be in that state and be able to create and think very fast.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I completely get you. I feel the like frequency similar to that. Like it's rich and thick and palatable. Like you could put plasma, I guess you put your hand in it and
Mm.
and almost pick it up like this. And it's really interesting what you said, like being really still. When we look at the ancient feminine mysteries, that and we look at the story of Inanna, for example, when she went down the descent of Inanna and she met, her shadow sister. She was hanging. The text says she was hanging like a piece of rotting flesh on a hook for 3 days. And that sounds gory, but there's so much mysticism in there because it's about going into complete inertia,
Yeah.
complete stillness to allow that integration and upgrade to occur rather than trying to make it happen in this old world that we lived in.
Yeah. Do you think that it's happening anyway? You know what I
Like,
mean by that? You know what I mean by that? I mean, like, I don't know. Well, like the
I know,
universe.
yeah, I
Yeah.
know exactly what you mean. Do
Like,
we need to do anything?
well, okay. My experience with the universe, it's always teaching in a paradoxical manner. And in other words, it says, don't ever take your eye off the ball. Don't ever think that you know. So, but it feels so certain. Like the shoe hasn't dropped for a long time. Things have, no matter what people have gone through, shadow work, whatever, there has been a steady incline upwards, and there's no denying that. That's everywhere. And so either we did this energetically and it's already happening and it's going to happen, period, or it's just happening anyway, or it's tied to us no matter what it looks like. And maybe it's all three of the above, who knows?
I understand what you. Well, that question is almost like, is there a God or not?
Yeah. Yeah.
If we look at what's happening, in the universe, things are born and they kind of go back up again and be recycled and they're born again, and that is happening. So then I guess that question is if the beings on those different planets affect that or not.
Well, yeah, now we're getting into that. So there's the physical world, then there's this outer lying world, let's just say, which is our aspects that are interdimensional, dimensional, ET, fifth, sixth, seventh con, whatever, right? And then there's the one that's shared. Like there's a space where you're kind of in both. And I think that's where we're at. I
Yeah,
think that's where we're at. And for me, one of the things that's been getting louder and louder every day, and it's a bit aggravating, is to that face it, you've got to let go of every single 3D thing that's 3D. I've seen it in myself, not saying it's done. I've seen it in my relationship, which has been quite powerful with both of us. And I've seen it in Soulogy. I've seen it everywhere. And well, you still don't know anything at the end of the day.
I think that's true. The more that we know, the more that we know, that we
Yeah.
don't know anything.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it's such a, what is God, right? Like I was talking to my son last night and he was asking me some questions. I said, I did a lot of research and I found something very credible that I just felt like I'd share with him based on what he was asking me. And there were like 6 or 7 different accounts that I came across, and they were a human being incarnated, like say anytime within the last 150, 200 years, 6 or 7 examples where they came across ET aspects or other type of aspects like a Hathor or whatever, and kind of journeyed into the higher realm. And they were all told the same thing because they all asked wherever they went to whoever was there, okay, well, what's the deal with God, the goddess? Where does it go? Where is it? And they're all like, well, nobody knows. So there's always this aspect of surrender. I wouldn't call it blind faith. I would just call it a place that requires total presence. And that is, I say I am soul. I believe a soul, because it feels that way, has a certain personality, has its own soul signature. But the truth is, I'm not attached because I don't know. Like you said, it could just be blows it out, brings it back in, blows it out, brings it back in. That's how we breathe.
Yeah,
Maybe we get
exactly.
all maybe we get all mixed up and become another, unique soul signature energy block or entity, and that ceases and then gets thrown back into the soup. I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
But I think that with the feminine, getting back to that in all seriousness, because it is quite, I mean, it's amazing. It's to actually see it happening. It's almost like waking up when you know certain things, but you can't share it, right? I know a lot. Okay. So it's like that. Like one of the attributes of that frequency or the influence it has on, let's say the energetic balance or lack thereof on the earth, is that it's a very present energy. It's a greater presence with each other, with ourselves, and that's a powerful thing. That's
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah. I mean, it has that balance because it's that presence and it brings us into our bodies. The kind of spiritual dogma we've been taught is to reject the body as sin, as something, to be transcended. But actually, what the feminine does is bring us into the presence of beauty in all things, in all in life, and to see the beauty, from a blade of grass to our physical bodies, to all beings. And that is such a beautiful thing because it allows us to slow down
Hmm.
and to enjoy that present moment instead of being up in our heads in this more kind of logical way of seeing the world.
Yes. Yeah. Stop thinking, dummy.
Yeah,
No, I can't. As a man, I can tell you, like through my whole life, just reflecting on that, there's always been, as a teenager, as a young man, whatever, uh, where the feminine energy, and it might be a girlfriend or a friend that's a girl or something, or maybe a relative, and it'll be like, stop thinking, feel it. It's like the artistic. It's like feel it. That's like
yeah,
the feminine's, and the masculine is more like tell me what that means. Step one is
yeah.
this logical, rational. So yeah.
Yeah, feel it and then also receive it, because as the masculine is projecting, the feminine is receiving.
Yeah.
And actually, receiving things is really difficult for a lot of us to do. Receiving love without giving anything back, receiving the presence of the moment, receiving abundance, receiving the masculine, receiving. It's really a thing that we've been engineered to give, to
Right.
project out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like the masculine and the feminine in regard to the earth and maybe beyond, maybe all the way, is kind of like unoverridable programming, like operating system. Like it can't be altered. It's like the basic physics of the soul or the universe, and it makes sense to me because I always picture it being just like a cell, like our one sphere, uh, and she, because nothing bursts that's not a mother, right? So she wanted to start the whole thing off and created her twin and gave them everything that they were. In other words, had no superiority, no, couldn't take it back, had to fully love unconditionally, and the dance began. That's how I see it happen.
Wow.
I'm sticking with my story.
Well, that's the old womb mysteries, the old cosmic womb cosmology
Yeah.
of how things were brought in, and then they wanted to bring in a patriarchal god and take all of that out.
Yeah. And that was the latest history, right? I mean, if I look at all the narratives that are out there, and I'm talking about a lot of people that came on the show, Franco De Nicola, our brother who transitioned in October, and even the stuff that you see out there, if you research, you just got to discern. But everything is like the most recent chapter is since the flood. So you got Atlantis going up to the flood, in Lemuria and whatever, and so the flood's about to come. That timeline coincides with Franco's intel and some other people that bring in that type of stuff that I've been exposed to. Coincides with the time when we as a soul group who had knowingly come into an organic 3D field to experience polarity were then presented, and based on, and not that it matters, but it sounds like, our Anunnaki or reptilian aspects came in and said, hey, we have an idea. And we're going to make it a inverted 3D where it's really distorted and really wild and crazy. And we all bought into it. And that's coming to that work, or that challenge that we took on is coming to fruition now through this awareness that's being most obviously characterized by the feminine energy expanding, which
Yeah,
is a silent, you talk about a ninja. Talk about, over here they'll say an Indian can sneak up on you because they're so quiet, but the feminine energy, that's what it's doing to me. To me,
yeah,
that's how I feel. What I see is happening. It's just this thing that's happening, and no matter what the distortion is, it's like magic, basically.
yeah, yeah. It's there, and it's available if you want to flow with it or not. Well, anyway, I think like we said, it's doing it. It's doing it. But the more that you can work with it, the more that flow is going to open up to you. And actually, the more you're going to connect to those higher soul energies and receive yourself as divine, and then able to carry the frequency for others. Because, like you said, you can feel it when someone's in that frequency. So the more you're embodying it, the more that you're doing it for others.
Yeah. Yeah, I've noticed it, and I guess everybody goes through it their own way, but like just getting to the point as a man at 60, I mean, like, uh, you know, in acknowledging the feminine energy to greater and greater and greater and greater and greater and greater depths. It's just been such a, until the day comes where you start to feel your own feminine, and you're not just talking about it. Oh, I had a marriage with my masculine and feminine, not making fun of anybody or myself, but that doesn't do it. You actually feel it, and and that's, I think, when I would say that probably started happening. Morgan was still here, so probably a year ago, maybe, but it didn't really start going down until the last 2, 3, 4 months. It
Yeah,
really, like the feminine, I was looking at, am I changing? Because you could feel it coming in. And I'm sure that's happened to a lot of men in its own way. The women's path would be a little different probably, but it's happening. It ain't happening to us if it ain't happening to y'all, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
they're doing everything first.
Yeah. It's definitely happening. It's such a beautiful thing to feel, and to like we said at the beginning, it feels like it's actually happening now. We can relax a bit and just know that this is steady, this is anchoring, this is real, this is happening. We're not going to go on another ride of it being taken away, or doom and gloom.
Well, two is like, excuse me. So, that saying that if it didn't kill you, right? If it didn't kill you, that says a lot, right? How bad did it hurt you if it didn't kill you, whatever. But it applies. Like nothing we have been given, we haven't been given what it takes. And I know some of us, and I'm sure in all of our incarnations, we've all probably committed suicide. I mean, who knows whatever's happened. But my point is, over the long haul, and to this point now, we have what it takes. And I think as things get more loud, our memories and our abilities are going to mirror that. And we're going to have more to work with in terms of what we are experiencing and what we're creating.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's so amazing because like you said, we've been through so, we've kind of processed so much. And I really like this saying, actually. Someone told me this saying when I was about to give birth. And this saying was, this contraction, contraction, a birth contraction, isn't stronger than you because it is you. And I think we can apply that to this.
Wow.
That just blew me, because it's me,
Wow.
it's my body that is creating that contraction. It's not something that's happened. I'm doing it.
That's
And that
powerful.
just, yeah.
No, that's powerful, because thinking about like the breath out, the breath in, there's like a finite to it, right? There's like a pause. But with the contraction, it's ongoing. It's perpetual. So it's both. It's like never been done before, but always being. I don't know how to explain it, but I get what you're
Yeah.
saying. That's actually a great metaphor for what we've all. A great way to look at it, because it points to the experience itself, which is the present moment above all else.
Yeah.
It's almost like, hey, we're giving you this information. What the hell are you worried about? So
Yeah.
just take a breath. And to me, relaxation, and I mean relaxation, like whether you seek it out or not, I don't really, I don't know. But that seems to be like, I don't know how to say this, like that's getting better and better.
Yeah.
Like
And
the
I think this, what you said about earlier, like surrendering everything in the 3D. I think it's that making us chill the hell out by taking us through these things, like where we have to surrender, and that surrender is chilling out and
Yes.
letting it happen.
Yes. Yes. How many people have I talked to and I've experienced? I can't even do dates anymore, but I'm going to say at least the last 2 months, 3 months, December, January, February, people talking about how much they were sleeping, how much they were laying around during the day. And I say laying around, but not being, just having to lay down and be horizontal, and having those loops come in, the tapes come in and say, what are you doing? You need to get up and do something. And they just kind of went away. Right. Like, so again, these are the linear characteristics of what's actually happening, boots on the ground, human. What is my human experiencing? Because I'll tell you what, the best expressions, the best energies I come across, maybe they're the ones you're talking about. You were talking about earlier, like carrying that frequency, are the ones that bring the human to the party equally with the rest of them. Like, that's powerful.
Yeah.
That's powerful to be around or to see something like that. It's one thing to be comfortable in your soul shoes, but it's another thing to be comfortable in your human shoes.
Yeah, and I think we have to, and that's what that is the feminine embodiment is in the body. And the body is amazing. Like if we were just, spirits, bits of light floating around, we wouldn't experience taste, touch. This is heaven on earth down here. There's
Yeah,
so many spirits waiting to feel this.
yeah,
And yeah, bringing this in and enjoying this experience, and that brokenness when we're down on our knees is a divine experience as
yeah.
well.
And one that you don't have to go back to unless you want to. Uh, yeah. And what about time and space? My son and I were talking about this last night, and he asked me what was going on. He talked about time, and he doesn't hang around in these communities, but he was kind of like poking around, and I was just saying to him, well, I'm trying to keep it simple. I said some people explain it like this: they talk about going from the 3D to the 5D, and they don't talk about 4D because 4D is time and space, and that's kind of going at the same time, like on the way to 5D. It's like going away. People talked about time anomalies, Mandela effect, many other things, especially the last couple of years, and now space seems to be doing some funny things. Morgan and I have talked about some of the stuff that's happened to us, where you have physical encounters, yet you're on the other side of the world. And I know this isn't just unique to us. So my point is, like, I talked about, like, oh, I believe that I'll teleport, et cetera, et cetera. Do you see time and space doing funny things? And do you see time and space evaporating in this physicality?
Yeah, I definitely see, like what you explained with Morgan. I have experienced that bilocation, and being able to be in different places. Um, I think it's a gift, actually. We were talking about the gifts that we're bringing on.
Hmm.
I think it's one of these things that's available to us, and it's like we've tried to separate the inseparable, these entangled pieces of the universe, but they're entangled, and what brings them back together, whether
Yeah.
they're physically in different time and space, is presence and love.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure when you've connected with Morgan, it's because you've connected through your love and being present with her. And then when you're in love and present with her, there's no time and space.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, in many, many different occasions, whether we were together or not.
Yeah,
And doesn't happen like, like, for instance, if it's on the, like in the situation we're in now, it doesn't happen like, hey, like this, it doesn't
no,
happen like that. We're not
we could
even,
be
yeah,
not talking.
it's all energetic, and it
Yeah,
all fits after it happens, then it fits. Right. Like,
yeah,
and so it all falls in line. So yeah, that to me is a door that I want to go through, along with the other ones I'm talking about, like focusing on those things. And I know I have a choice. I could focus on whatever I want to, right? Like I could focus on being, a home builder or just whatever, and that'd be fine too. But this is what I think a lot of people are choosing and experiencing is how far can we go into the higher dimensions while still in our physical body, right?
yeah.
Yeah, that's the way I see it.
Yeah, but if you look at the Egyptian light bodies, that was the purpose. They were wanting to integrate the 10 bodies. But what we have to realize is that when you get into some of those higher bodies, like if you go follow the Egyptian one, like the Christed oversoul body, when you're a Christ in your Christed oversoul body, your thought affects universes. So that is extremely powerful and actually a bit dangerous in the hands of people that haven't pierced through their shadow. So when we were talking about ascension, that's why there's a path and it's hard, because we want people in pristine energy that when they get to that Christed oversoul, they're not thinking, I wonder what a cigarette would look like attached to someone's head, and then that thought coming up. You know?
That's interesting. Okay, so last year when Morgan was still here, we commune every night, and one night she channeled, and we were having this sequence of light body experiences, like over a period of weeks, or even a couple of 2-3 months. And so what happened was that night, our light body came in to merge with us, right? And then I remember this because I think that had happened a couple of times, but this time it was explained that there were, and I just remember this, 9 light bodies. Okay. And she said, you're going to merge with each one of these, but don't do it at the same time. Do it, you know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
remember that happening. And yeah.
Yeah.
9. So there's 9 because 9 plus the human body. So that's 10, I guess. Yeah, I get that with the whole thought thing because we're experiencing that the telepathy is expanding and the thought, which is really the root of instant manifestation, which isn't always physical, right? I mean, it's energy at its core. That's happening. People are reading each other easier. People are choosing what lanes they want to play in, what playgrounds they want to play in, and not having the programming of, oh my God, I'm mean to that person, or I need to answer that person. All that stuff's going away, it feels like.
Yeah. Yeah. And stripping back to the essential of what really matters and what we want to think about, what we want to focus on.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be interesting this year. I think there a lot's going to happen. And
Yeah.
I think a lot's going to happen. And if you look at the power of 22 February, well, we still have what would it be? December 22nd, 2022. That's probably a powerful day.
Oh,
Bunch of
yeah.
twos. December 12th, December 2nd, 1s and 2s I mean, that always seems to be a period that really starts to shift up, just like it did. It started in October. Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you coming out and spending time with us. It was a pleasure getting to know you, and I enjoyed the conversation. And let me just ask you one more question. Your child, are you picking up anything from your child, like telepathically, or just having experiences where you're seeing? A lot of people have been talking about the children that have been, being born in the recent years and the frequency that they have. Have you
Yeah.
noticed?
Yeah. So my daughter, as I said, she's 3.5. So when she was, so what it's very interesting, actually. I'll just say super quick. I made an intention with my partner. I was 41 that we'd like to have a child. And we made love, and I knew we conceived. 3 days later I could feel her there. And then as she started to grow in my womb, she started communicating with me. She told me where she's from. She told me her soul name, her sacred name. Like I had so much communication with her when she was in the womb. And yeah, she is here to, I don't know what she's here to do, but she's here to really help. um, you know, help steer this world forward. There's a lot of these children that are being born now.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely
Yeah,
feel
we've
that.
talked to a few mothers and fathers, and yeah, they kind of have an energy of they're here to kick ass and take names. they're not playing games. They're just like,
No.
hey, we're here to get to work, which is another good sign of where we're headed. Because like a lot of people point out, you know, there are people that have laid the groundwork for that to happen. So
Yeah,
everybody's relevant. Everybody's got an integral role. Thank you so much. I look forward to getting together again with you in 2022. If you're up for it, and I wish you and your family the very best in all your endeavors. Thank you so much.
thank you everyone.